Hello and welcome to the Milford Finance Committee meeting, Wednesday, September 13th, 2017. We're going to, no problem. Thanks, Phil. You saved our bacon. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the June 14th, 2017 minutes.
Move. Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Jerry. All those in favor?
Aye.
I was not here, so I can't vote on that. All right, pass. The next item on the agenda is the presentation from the IT manager. It's been quite a while since we had you and Andy. Why don't you come up? A lot of great things have happened with the ID department, and we've been wanting to have you in for a while, but I know that the selectmen have also been eager to hear everything that's been going on, and chain of command, we wait for them to get their presentation. So, and I watched it, and it was excellent. So why don't you go over some of the stuff that's been going on?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Just want to thank this board, again, the selectmen, again, my technician, Dan Fournier, Rick Villani, our town administrator, and Zach Taylor, our finance director, and also World Band, who's our consultants, and anybody else who has put all the time and energy to make this department happen for the town of Milford. So thank you very much for having me here again. As Chris was saying, yes, I'm here to give you a little bit of an update. I know you guys are probably busy tonight, so I'll try to make this brief for you guys so you guys can get out of here. Yes, we did actually have a pretty good year. We wrapped up fiscal year 17 on a high note. We completed all our projects by April, and we closed out our IT budget on the positive side, and we actually gave back $27 around to the town. So I think we had a pretty good year. We did complete a bunch on top of our planned projects. We completed a bunch of non-planned projects. I did talk about the Veronis security suite. We implemented that, and that's actually in place, and it's working pretty well. Over at the highway department, they upgraded they replaced their gas boy system with a new modern system that would better integrate with their computers. It's called OPW Fuel Management System, or Phoenix. The retirement department actually launched their pension technology group web portal. So current and retirees can actually log on and see their current balances for their retirement and everything for the town. We also implemented a new help desk ticketing system, which I'll go over a little bit later. Daneware remote control, again, I'll talk about a little bit later, which allows us to remote into users' computers. We also implemented Landsweeper, which is our inventory software. Touch about that a little later. And our password policy, which I'll touch a little bit later as well. Our help desk ticketing system. When I first started here, we were still with the schools. As you know, we have since split, and we still were using Schooldude, which they still use there. We've been using that since 2014. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it worked for us at the time. The town probably put in about 1,000 tickets thereabouts, maybe a little bit more that weren't even put in. Roughly for 3 years, probably about 7 to 10 tickets a week for the town side. There was a lot of problems. People were always saying they didn't remember their username or password. It was not so easy to use. So I was looking into something that was really easy, that would integrate with our system, so you'd only use one username, one password. I came up with a company called SolarWinds, and we're using their web help desk ticketing system. We implemented it in April. We went live with it on July 10th, but we've been basically using it since May. Since May, we put in about 186 tickets, which is about 10 to 12 tickets a week since that time. Like I said before, Daneware remote control also integrates seamlessly with this. So if a ticket comes up, we can view we'll know what computer they're using, and there's a little icon. We can click on that to connect to it if we need be. The user will allow us permission to enter it. That's where Landsweeper comes in, which is our inventory software, which goes out, inventories everything that's on our network, and it integrates seamlessly with the help desk system, which is why I liked all three of those requirements. for the system. And
Now,
everything.
Andy, do they email you a ticket, or is there a website that they log into? How exactly do they do it?
Well, I'll show you that right now. There's two ways. There is email,
Yep.
and then there's the ticket system, which I will show you. Here we go. If you go to helpdesk.townofmilford.com, anyone from who's an employee can access this anywhere. They would come to this login. They put in their username and password, which is the exact same one they would use to log into their computer. So all of you guys have access to this system as well, since you have an email address. So let me just put in my password. Make sure caps lock it off. And end users will come to this screen. It's very simple, very easy to use. The request type, let's just say website. Another subsection will come up. You want to update content, upload photos, put that. Put a clear subject in. I'm just going to put test. Request details, what is going on, your problem. This down here is, you can CC. The previous program couldn't do that. So say someone in the department head asked someone in their department, hey, put in a ticket for me. They can actually CC them on this ticket, and they'd be able to interface with us. So hopefully the users will need to enable it, and then you just click save. And then a ticket has been generated. And then I would get that, and I would see that, and I would either assign it to myself, or Dan would assign it to himself, or vice versa and stuff. Now we do, I'm not going to tell you the email address due to the fact that I don't want people to spam us, but there is an email address that the employees can actually send, and a ticket will be generated as well, which is a nice feature as well.
So you'll be able to provide us with reports, obviously, with the different levels of tickets, whether it's high, medium, low, number of tickets, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. All the tickets are categorized from urgent as being the most necessary to. Then the second one is high. Medium is like everyday tickets. That's the standard. And then low for like projects and stuff. So they're all color coded. Obviously urgent's red. Low is like blue. And I'd be able to run reports for you guys if necessary, or whoever would like them, and you can see and track. And I can also see how many tickets have actually come in through email as well. You guys have any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, Andy, I have more of a general question,
Sure.
not specific to certain programs. How do you have a bunch, do you establish goals as of the beginning of the year, certain projects you want to get to? And do you prioritize, or where do you get your projects? I just wanted to learn more about, the department from a general nature.
Absolutely, yeah. We do have projects. It's all part of the 3-year plan that we put in place. We're still going towards that, but in IT, it changes all the time. Some things may have to be put in the back
Sure.
burner, and some goes up to the front. But we do that every year. I'm in constant contact with Zach, Rick, about what needs to be done, what I think needs to be done, and we put that into play. And we also talk with World Band, who's our consultants, who also give us some ideas here and there.
Okay, so you would have a list of goals and objectives, things that you want to accomplish as of the beginning of the fiscal year, and you'll kind of monitor that throughout the year.
Absolutely. And I will actually touch upon what we're going to be doing for this year, for
Yeah.
FY18 as
Again,
well.
I think for the committee, it helps to get more of a general sense versus a specific sense, okay?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think this is great. I think it's great what he's doing for the town.
Yeah, but again, it's nice to have some general background. We're not all IT folks, so it's...
I actually have a meeting tomorrow with World Band to talk about the current projects, to maybe get some more dates. I know the selectmen were asking about that, and hopefully tomorrow we'll have a little bit more concrete dates of when things will be completed. The next thing is security. Like I said, we have implemented the Varonis security suite. It's out there, it's monitoring. I know it actually works. I was actually on vacation down in Florida during the summer when I got my email flooded with a bunch of alerts. So I go and ask Dan, what's going on? He's like, oh yeah, I was doing some things for a vendor who was actually implementing the new wide format printer for the planning and engineering, and they needed to do some things on our network, which actually triggered all this stuff. So at least we know it works, and I'd rather have false positives than actual issues that we need to deal with, such as like the crypto wall viruses and everything that we hear about in the news. And the last thing is the password policy, which we implemented in June, which requires everyone to change their password every 120 days. And you gotta have at least 8 characters and 3 of the 4 criteria: upper or lowercase letter, a number, or a symbol, such as like the @ symbol or exclamation point.
Tough.
Yeah, so, hey, yeah, 8 characters is kind of standard nowadays, so just trying to get people to be just like their banking. Kind of nice to have it once a quarter, or so 120 days instead of like what I wanted, it was 90. For this year, we do have computer replacements. I have identified through that program Landsweeper about 20 so computers around town that have either reached or gone past their warranty. So we have budgeted money to replace those. We're also going to replace rack mount UPS, which is the backup batteries into our server room. Wanted to do rack mount to actually put them out into our racks so they're off the floor and clean up all the cables that are actually there, which is actually a tripping hazard for both myself and my technician. We're going to replace the highway department firewall, which we're already doing right now. We're also going to install more Sonic points at the senior center, at least 2 more than what was actually there. The Sonic points are the wireless access points. I guess when you go way back in the bingo hall, the signal is kind of degrading, so actually adding maybe 1 or 2 will help boost that signal in there.
Excuse me, Andy. Do you have a
Yes.
do you have a contract to do that, or do you do that? Who does-
We do that.
You do that.
We go out there. I actually work with World Band, who helps me. We go down, we put it up. We don't have a contract with anyone. We just go and do it when necessary. The big thing, we're also going to start. I'm also going to be working with Zach and Chris Pillar, who is our town treasurer, and Rick, is to look into getting a enterprise resource program for the entire town. Our town is about $100 million budget town, and we're still using something that is more focused towards school districts. We need to have something a little bit more robust. We actually have 3 separate programs out there. Patriot, which the assessors use, Data National, which the tax collector use, and then Budget Sense, which is the financial, and all of them do not talk to each other. So by getting everything under one roof is something we actually need to do. And so we're going to start to do that. And a program that is widely used in Massachusetts is Munis. And also on top of that is we're looking into cloud solutions, another thing that was on our 3-year plan. And those things could be, start out simple, maybe push our email into the cloud like Office 365. Backups could be another thing. I know Munis also has the capability of having everything hosted in the cloud, and it's something we would definitely look into.
Are we doing Munis now?
The only thing we're doing right now is we're just studying it.
You had money in the
Diligence.
capital plan.
Not ready, too much going on.
That's good.
Yeah. So at
I
least
like
if
it.
You'd like that.
At least if we start planning now and maybe put it on something, 2019, probably 2020, probably be the best
Even
bet.
better. How far?
But it's something we need, it's not if, it's when to do this. And the last thing, obviously everyone knows, is the Town of Milford website. We've actually went to a new website, we redesigned it, we changed our address to milfordma.gov. I've been hearing some good, actually, all good stuff coming from our website. And this is it. Oh, wait.
It's nice.
Oh, I know.
Clean.
Very nice.
I wonder why it didn't come up.
Like the letters. Letters are good.
Nice font.
Yeah, nice font. Spell correct.
Sonic,
As with
right?
as with technology, there's always some sort of.
We have to get an IT guy in here to fix it.
We're trying to get IT guy to fix this.
Call up Dan.
Call Wilbur, call Wilbur.
You should know better than to come before this group thinking,
Need a
easy
Sonic
run,
code.
man.
Yeah, you gotta.
Pendants for changing
Yeah.
our password too many times.
Just the whole
Here we
town-
go.
the whole town's
Here's
watching.
our website.
I like it.
The pictures on the website, I want to give a thank you to Shannon Sanchez, who actually works with our finance director. Well, he just left. Our finance director in the accounting department. She's the one who took time to actually take these photographs, which we have a couple more up there, but I think she did a fantastic job, so I wish give her a shout out and a thank you for that. But like I said, this is our new website. Finance committee actually has. Go up and bring up theirs.
Yeah.
Here's your site right here. It gives you where we meet, the meeting, the time, a little description. We also have recorded. So this meeting will actually be there probably tomorrow. Tomorrow. So
Are we gonna be able
So that will link to the YouTubes?
yes.
Okay.
Yep. So if I click on that, it'll go
Can we put the budget up there this year?
goes right to the YouTube. The selectmen have that. Anyone who has a recorded meeting
Uh-huh.
is put up on there. So easy access. People don't have to hunt for it. They need to look at a specific meeting and everything. Along with that, we have online payments, which I have town clerk, tax collector, and I also have the school up there too. So links to all that, meetings and agenda. So we have all our meetings and agenda. The thing with this is that I need to have the people give them to me to actually put up there. So that's the process we're trying to get there. The cool thing about this is people can subscribe to meetings and agendas. So if someone has an interest in the finance committee,
How you doing?
they can come on down here, click on finance committee and get anything that you guys have and you want posted. They'll get an email saying the minutes or agenda have been posted and they can go view them. Just another thing to engage into our citizens a little better. And as everyone, the hot topic and probably the rest of your meeting, the water company. We also have the water company here and all the documentation so far that have been released to the public that's up there.
Great.
Is there anything you'd like to see or?
Do you have a link to the help desk up there? Like, is that on here?
We don't have a link to the help desk because I thought that wouldn't.
Yeah. Like, how would I get to it?
Just go to helpdesk.townofmilford.com. But since that's an employee facing,
Yeah.
you want the public to start there and maybe.
I wasn't sure about committee members for that type of stuff, so if we need to submit a ticket,
Yep.
we'd go to that website.
Yeah, just go to helpdesk.townofmilford.com and you'll go right there and you can.
I know,
submit
Andy, I know
tickets. Yes.
all the boards and the departments too have all the links to emails there too.
Yes.
I was on that today.
Yep.
Verification, I'm not a robot, you gotta do quite a few times.
Yes, with the new website, and this is pretty much standard for what websites are doing, is they're taking away listing the email, just so you don't get spammed, and they have to put in a form. You write in what you want, and then you click off the "Hey, I'm not a robot," just so it cuts down on spam and all
good.
that. Yeah.
Could you bring us up to date on what you'll be doing in 2018 with the library?
The library. I had a brief conversation with Sue today. I'm going to try to set up a meeting with Zach, and we'll talk about that because it is under my plan to try to get them under our umbrella, and that will probably encompass buying some new equipment and everything. Right now, I don't have anything, but maybe another time I come here, I'll probably have something a little bit more for you guys.
Well, you do have definite plans for 2018 to move forward on that.
Absolutely. Not for this year specifically, but for maybe FY19, I should say.
All right.
Yes.
So anything that was planned on for capital is not for this year, not for the fall.
Not for the
For
library.
his department.
No, but the library had
Library.
money.
Well, he says they're gonna do anything, well, you're wanting to back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to.
I have to look at the budget to say, because there was a server and some other stuff over the next 2-3 years.
Yeah.
We don't wanna do that and then come back and you tell us we're gonna
Well, no, Jerry, the point is, the library doesn't spend the money, it goes through, it's allocated or budgeted under the library,
I understand.
but he has to approve it anyway, so.
Yeah, that was one of the.
Familiar with that. She knows she's not gonna go for it.
Yeah, that's one of the things, and don't have much right now to give you, but I'm definitely going to be setting up a meeting with Zach and Sue, and we'll discuss in greater detail on what we're going to do and everything.
He's testing a new program to change your password even faster.
Absolutely, going to do it every day.
There you go.
Anybody else with questions? Andy, how do you feel that the cooperation between department heads? I know that, we started this off as just this building, and we've been trying to phase out to all the other buildings and some of the other departments, and quickly trying to mushroom this into encompassing all the departments of the town. How you work with department heads? You getting cooperation? You getting pushback? Are we having any issues with that? How's that going?
I think it's actually been going pretty well. I'm not having, much pushback besides, normal, department stuff. But I think everyone's been receptive of actually having a department to actually go to and actually having a face and actually having people respond to their issues and stuff in a timely manner. So I haven't, either no one's actually come to me and said they had a problem. I think everything's been working pretty well.
So library's hopefully going to come on board. Is there another department that's on your radar on what could maybe be the next one that we could maybe start to integrate in?
The big one right now is the library, and my goal, maybe
the
down
elephant in
the road,
the
is to
room,
have
obviously,
public
police and-
safety, police and
Until
fire
Tom
come on board.
retires.
Yeah, okay.
You have the highway coming on now, don't you?
Highway's already on board. We have the highway, senior center, and the youth center, and obviously the town hall.
And you do over for sewer as well.
Sewer is one of those gray areas. That's actually another one that should come under us as well. And I think they go through a different source as well. Their email is through a different source than through us.
They're an enterprise fund, so they're gonna try to hang out there as long as they can, probably.
Should I ask?
Not that it's right, but it's.
Yeah, and I couldn't say it better. Just so that you said it, Jerry, is that's fine, but I don't know that that's necessarily the right avenue. So, and I understand it
we
may
should
be a little.
working toward
Yeah.
a roll-in.
Yep.
Does
Absolutely. Mike.
Countryside stay separate from town IT?
Yeah, that wouldn't be anything that we'd get involved with. Yeah.
What was that?
Senior, Geriatric Authority, Countryside.
Oh, no. Is that actually a town?
Yeah. Yeah,
Town?
they're independent.
Oh, okay, so if they're
Wink,
independent.
wink, not a town official.
Yeah.
Just one brief, I'm very pleased with what I've seen in the last year and the progress that's been made. Prior to your arrival, we always seemed to be struggling with where we were going, what we're doing. And now I'm actually feeling like the highway and the library, things are starting to come together, and my congratulations and compliments to you on a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Andy, if I had to ask you what you were looking from us in the next future that could aid you to do a better job, it's not like a job interview question or anything, but what can we help you with? I mean, as I couldn't agree with Jerry more, is you're doing a fantastic job. I mean, it seems like we're leaping when before we were baby stepping, and that's a true comment to you and Zach and Rick and the whole department. Is there anything big that you need that from us that can help you even more?
Oh, right now, just like the continuous support they've been, and maybe give us a favorable when we go up to do Munis and stuff, you guys, or a Munis-like program.
Yep.
But no, right now I don't really have anything, but just the continued support from you guys.
As you say, it's always a constantly evolving department anyway with you guys. I mean, you never know what's going to come up next.
And just a touch, we are looking in. We met with 2 vendors for print management as well. So that is definitely something that we are looking. We've actually gone and looked at 2 vendors, and we have another one coming up.
Does that mean you're gonna take control of all the printers in town and instead of all this?
Right now, actually, I do all the printers, but having an actually under one contract is something we're looking into, to have toner, ink, maintenance, and everything like that to take.
Might get a better deal.
Absolutely, maybe save a few extra dollars.
Andy? I don't think it's premature, but were you part of the due diligence as far as being able to look at the IT system at Milford Water Company? And did you have to develop any anticipatory plans? Do you see any problems, or do you not know yet?
At this time, I have not been part of that. I'm assuming if we do purchase, that there's going to be a lot of work. And it probably wouldn't be something that'll happen overnight. My guess it'll probably be up to a year to maybe fully integrate everyone.
Wouldn't that be a part of the due diligence? That's pretty major stuff there.
Well, I think something like that is part of what they would characterize as the business plan for the department as a whole. And as the selectman said, that currently is not completed. I think that once the department, you know, if we do end up acquiring the water company, that certainly is something very important that we'd look at. I agree. But to Andy's point, I think also it would be something that I think we're going to have enough to do with the water company building that we're not going to go in and necessarily try revamping their IT department and that kind of stuff. But certainly, as our goal from the beginning is to have the entire town under this umbrella, and you know, eventually getting it, whether it's public safety and everything else.
I just hope they're not running Windows 3.1 over there.
Well,
The water company would be a big undertaking to also put under the town, and hopefully whoever their IT staff or consultants will definitely work with us to make the transition easier.
anything else for Andy? Well, Andy, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know that was a lot of information that you really trimmed down, because I know I watched the selectmen meeting when you did the presentation,
Absolutely.
and you know, it was a lot more robust, and you know, we like trimmed down and we like to the point, and I think you did a great job at that.
Sometimes I like to talk a little long.
You do, but that's all right, because you have a lot of information to give, and you know, it's good to see that you have that knowledge. So well, thank you very much for coming in, and definitely keep us posted to the IT subcommittee, and you know, we won't wait this long to have you in again to get an update. So
Sure, thank you very much.
Thank you
You
very
guys
much.
have a great evening.
all right, the next item on the agenda is to review the town meeting articles. We have a special town meeting coming, sorry, I'm trying to get the speaker's attention, on September the 26th regarding the possible acquisition of the water company. And there are some, obviously some articles on that town meeting that we need to review and give a recommendation on tonight. That town meeting obviously is only 2 weeks away. And it is one of the biggest things this town has ever done with the acquisition of the water company. The selectmen and all the departments, heads that were involved, finance department, legal department, everything, have been very diligent about getting information to the forums and up on the website and everything else. So I hope everyone's reviewed that. We had a meeting with the selectmen last Wednesday, I believe it was, in executive session, where a lot of you were able to attend, where a lot of information was provided from our consultants, the Lincoln Group, and Brown Rudnick, our legal consultants, as well, regarding the acquisition to the water company. I think a lot of us got a lot of the answers that we were looking for. And I know with the forum, I know some of you attended that and also had questions as well. I hope everyone's, you know, been up to date with reading information on the drive and the website, as Andy just showed us, which is accessible, because it is a very important thing. So we have two guys that I don't know if anyone knows more about the Milford Water Company than these two right here. So
We know a lot about it, and unfortunately, you folks do too. We've had not just the meeting last Wednesday, but at other times, as you know, as you all know, we've met with the Finance Committee to try to bring you up to speed at the various stages, and we're at the final stage and ready to go to town meeting. The selectmen, as you know, are fully on board with it now. As they would tell you, they've had doubts along the way, but as we've delved into it in enormous detail, they've come to realize that this does appear to be the best option for Milford's future, and that is really what it's all about. It's about, ultimately, the quality of the water and the ability for the people of Milford now to have a say and control through their elected officials, to what will be their elected water commissioners, through a totally open process going forward. And I think that's really the key to the whole thing. We've been able to demonstrate, we believe, to ourselves and to others, that it is financially feasible. It can be done. It is clear that, you know, at one time we looked at a model whereby we could go forward with the existing rates and, as in other businesses, borrow periodically additional funds for capital expenses, and capital expenses are crucial to improvements. And what we've come to understand through further due diligence on this, that's not going to be possible to borrow because of the level of borrowing the town already has, and this will make that kind of borrowing impossible. So we will have to start out with a rate boost in the beginning, which could be approached the 30% the water company is seeking anyway. So from that standpoint, it's almost the same thing. But with that infusion of money that the water commissioners will then have, we can begin to address all of the capital issues that will hopefully bring about improvement to the water over time. Nothing's going to happen overnight, but over time, that's the goal. That's one of the major goals in this. So right now, as we present it to town meeting in much more detail than I'm doing now, we've been over every aspect of the finances. We've got to have a good financial plan. There will be an initial rate increase. There will then be, hopefully, periodic, consistent rate increases as opposed to these every 2 or 3 or 5 years big boosts, and ultimately be able to operate it effectively. So, again, the selectmen, 3 of them, as you know from, I'm sure, being at the forums, watching the forums, are absolutely in favor of this and want to move forward. To get 2/3 town meeting vote, and the Finance Committee recommendations, of course, is going to be important. So that's, I think you all know a lot about this, more than I could even summarize right now. So with that, I mean, I would.
It's tough to put a year into about a 4-minute conversation, but
It
as
is.
you said, we've been meeting about
Multiple
this and
meetings.
getting updates and
That was
information.
well put.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Zach, is there anything you want to add before I
just,
open it up?
Jerry had mentioned that throughout this process, the selectmen were skeptical at times, and I want to admit I was as well. So the original plan set forth, like I said, like Jerry said, had additional bonding in it that we're skeptical from the get-go. You were part of those meetings. You've seen the concern we had. And it may be possible to do. It's just not a good financial objective to do so. You're kind of going in the wrong direction, especially when this plan would be to be doing level debt as opposed to level principal. So you're really not having a declining debt service balance throughout the years. You have the same number throughout. With that said, we never really talked about going into the future. We have done some borrowings like that in the past, where once they become callable, typically after 10 years, we usually go and do so and refinance, refund them, as they call it. We're in the process right now of doing the geriatrics. I'm just using this as an example, So the economic benefits really will come in the long term here. So up front does seemingly look tight, but we do feel with the new rebalancing, if you will, we can handle it, and if anything, throughout time it will get better. We probably will, if interest rates are good, refinance and be back in a completely different situation within 10 years. So that's just some added information that would more than likely happen.
Absolutely. Before I give any thoughts, I'd like to open it up to the board. I know a lot of you guys have been very good about, at the executive board meetings, asking questions and attending forums and that type of stuff. Is there anything that you guys have thought of lately, or anything that you need clarification on before I have a couple things I want to. Yep, Jeff.
I have a procedural question, Jerry. Is the water company set up to be a self-sustaining unit once the town took it over? So
One of the articles, which we'll go over shortly in the warrant, is to create an enterprise fund. So this will be an enterprise fund, the same as the sewer department, operating independently from the general tax revenue, operating solely out of their revenues. We've had enormous success in the 25 years we've been doing that with the sewer department. There's no reason the town shouldn't have the same success with the water department operating that way. So,
To play off that a little bit further, at the same time of bringing on a large bond, we're also bringing in a big revenue stream continuously. So it is considered outside debt. It's not part of our debt limitation. And also, with these enterprise fund, it's actually the one fund they actually use retained earnings rather than fund balance, undesignated fund balance. It does follow GAAP rules, but that's where we would actually appropriate a lot of money for continued capital projects throughout the years, rather than additional borrowing. So within the budget and out of appropriated retained earnings.
Jeff?
Thanks, Tris. I think one of the big differences that I see, especially with the 30% rate increase, is that we have control of the capital. Where white water, 30, even if they got the 30% increase, let's assume they got it, that's spread out between rate cases. So we can't guarantee they're going to spend the 30% of capital, whereas the town, we can.
well, that's absolutely true. I mean, their rate increase, the way the system is set up, it's not their fault. It's the system, the regulatory system and the rate setting system. Yeah, that 30% they get is broken up among many things, including profits, including increased federal taxes because of their increased income, increased state taxes because of their increased income. So that eats into, it's not like they can take that 30% and utilize it. No, it doesn't work that way. We actually will be able to do that. That is one key to this whole thing.
And that'll be determined by the water
The
commissioners
water
on the
commissioners-
projects,
yes,
to do?
The water commissioners will make the initial determination of what the initial rate increase will be. And then it'll be, going forward, it'll be the water commissioners making all the decisions. They'll initially be appointed by the selectmen until April, and then there'll be 3 elected water commissioners, hopefully good, interested, hardworking people, because it's going to be a tough job for a few years. It really is.
And Jeff, to play off that a little further too, once they do have the initial rate increase, what will happen, because this enterprise funds filter into the tax recap, that's one of my many duties, is to make sure that the rate setting, the revenue is sufficient to cover the expenditures, and that's a must. It has to happen. So I envision that would kind of drive what would happen for future years. So in conjunction with necessary capital, operation expense, salaries and whatnot, you have to match it with the revenues, and that would more or less spit out what your increase would be. Correct.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah,
I got you.
Go ahead, Phil.
yeah, Zach, I just had a question and a comment. You mentioned the debt service, and what are we amortizing that over? I know I've seen it once before, but just refresh my memory.
All projections right now are on 30 years. There is an article that you'll see right here, right now, that is seeking 40 years, quite possibly maybe too little too late.
Little segue
you know.
for you.
Yeah, so if we were able to pull that off, these are very long-lived assets, obviously. So by stretching that out, does increase your interest a little bit, but does decrease your annual debt services. And again, if we were to be able to pull that off, which I'm skeptical that we will, then it just puts you in a better situation.
Zach, how are we amortizing that? You mentioned level, principal, or
Level debt.
huh?
Level debt.
Level debt. So
Meaning
level,
the same number.
Same number every month.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct,
okay.
correct. As I was mentioning earlier, we did that with geriatric about 10 years ago, and Town Treasurer Chris Pillar and I right now, we're refinancing that back into a level principal.
Yeah.
So again, that's why I mentioned that more than likely would be the intent if interest rates increase.
Because you're paying
Same
more-
time, we're
because
saving
you're
$1
paying
million
more-
too, so it's
Paying more interest on level debt, correct?
correct.
Yeah, correct. Okay.
Correct. However, we obviously looked at level principal. We all my instincts wanted to do that, but it's just too much money up front. It can't handle it.
Okay. Just a comment. I think, I want to thank you and Jerry, for coming before us a number of times. And we've had executive sessions and meetings, and we've been involved from the very beginning. I feel very comfortable with this at this point. I think a lot of decisions you make are a question of timing, and, the town is financially in good shape. I think the time is right. We are one of 5 municipalities that really doesn't own their own water company. And it is an element of quality and control that I think is very important. We have our own sewer department, we have our own highway department, we have our own school system. It's time to have our own water company. And one of the things that I have been impressed with is that we didn't hurry through this process. I think the due diligence was thorough. I'm happy to see no one wants a 30% rate increase, but on the other hand, you really want to be realistic in what's going to happen, and you don't want to kind of imply to the taxpayers by taking control of the water company, their water bills are going to be lower. And we asked one of the experts last week, you've done this in a number of towns, what do you think, where you've had problems, what was the biggest shortcoming? And it was perception by the townsfolk that the rates were going to go down. And that clearly is not the case. So I like the fact that someone is being, hey, we really need a significant rate increase, albeit we probably would have had it anyway, but at least we control that rate increase. So I've been, again, impressed by the due diligence. I also like the fact that people looked at capital down the road and looked at capital in year 1 and year 2 and year 10, just to ensure that you don't want to buy something and find out, guess what? You got to have a rate increase and you have to spend millions of dollars getting up to speed. I think, the tone has been quality, and there's clearly been a sense that people want higher quality, and we'll have the capital to do that. And as Jeff mentioned, we can do that in a consistent, steady fashion. So, I congratulate you all, and just from my point of view, I'm all for it. So.
Okay.
I would ditto what Phil just said, because there's been a lot of hard work done. And I think hopefully we're gonna derive the benefits very shortly, or in the very near future. I would only, if Phil remembers, about 10.
Memory's
12
going, Jerry, it's going.
Yeah, but we've been down this road, you and I and Bob DeVita, as we worked with the sewer commissioners a
Yeah.
long time back to develop a plan to keep that, keep that going, keep it solvent, keep it on good footing. Phil worked on it, Bob DeVita and I, and we stayed on that for almost 3 to 4 years, if I remember correctly, guiding. So we do have some experience, and I would only offer that.
It's gonna be needed. I mean, it's going to be needed by.
Don't rest on your laurels now. Now's the time to get up and take what we've learned and come back at it. And I remember you mentioned the retained earnings piece of it, and we took advantage of that over in the sewer department, and we rolled that back in to create a capital fund.
Yeah, I mean, the enterprise fund, for some of the newer members, they may all know this, but it's kind of fun. It's really like, you know, private business. You have revenue, and then you have expenses, and you have retained earnings. And actually, in the sewer department, we have retained earnings, I think, of like 5 million, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it was so well.
You'll have the commissioners that you have to deal with too.
So, again, it's kind of fun to work with.
It works.
It's not
It
just
works very well.
expense driven.
It had done so well that, if you recall, 4 years ago, we established a stabilization fund for it.
Yeah.
It had around 5 million, and when a significant capital project, 5.2 million, which is happening right now for the new sludge handling facility, we pulled out $3 million directly out of stabilization, authorized the remaining amount for bonding with no intentions whatsoever of actually bonding. Just a tactic we came up with while we create more retained earnings, and we'll rescind that, and we're off to the races. So that's some of the long-term expectations we should hopefully see here.
Just one little minor thing that might help us get through this rate increase. It's all in a matter of perception of what you perceive as a rate increase. And I keep hearing 30%, 30%, 30%, 30%. That's a hell of a big number on $10,000. But if you actually go look at a water bill, and I have one here on my cell phone that I took of a family of 4 in Milford, their water bill this quarter was $112.50. That's for 3 months. For a half, that's $250. No, $225, excuse me. I had these numbers in my head. And ultimately, it's $450 a year. And everybody in this finance committee, take 450 times 30, what's the number?
I think average, it was $628, I think was the average tax,
yeah.
the average water bill.
You gotta be
So-
careful, Jerry, because there's people paying $1,000
Well,
for
that's,
water.
if you're wasting it, but that's okay. It's
Jerry, it's called sprinklers, it's not a waste.
To your point, Jerry, you're exactly right. It's not significant
about
money.
revenue, Jerry, it's revenue.
Even if you use the
Yeah,
600,
exactly.
you use
Yeah,
the
use it.
600.
It's $180 a year,
Even if you use the 600
Eat
as
that
an
1,000.
example.
$180,
It's
yeah.
$180 a year, it's $15 a month.
Yep.
And I don't mean to be light on, some people are on fixed incomes, but for most people, $15 a month is cheaper, it's cheaper than the filters my son-in-law's putting in his filters that he has to replace every quarter. That's less money. Yes, spend more than that, just to filter the water. I'm just using that. I'm concerned that I keep hearing 30%. Do the math.
Yep.
It's not $300 or $400 a year, it's around $100 to $150.
Yep.
So I'm just hoping somebody will bring that up on town meeting.
Oh, I'm sure it'll come up.
It'll definitely.
Alleviate it, just relax.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one more thing. I think it's important to point out, after all the studies I heard, that water company is up for sale. If Milford doesn't buy it, the
It's a
price
risk.
tag is not
It's huge.
62 million.
It's a risk.
It's around 90 million. So if another private company buys it for 90 million and bonds it, that's coming to the bills to the town of
Well,
Milford.
absolutely, that's the way the system works. And recently, as you may have seen, and you're aware, obviously, Eversource bought up Aquarian, and they bought up a lot of water companies in Connecticut as part of that whole thing. And I just don't doubt for 1 minute that this Milford Water Company would not entertain that if we were unsuccessful. And I know the price would be much greater than this, I believe the price would be much greater than the 63 million, I really do. In part because another private entity coming in and absorbing them is going to be able to pass that on to us. So, yeah, this is maybe a unique, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It really is. If not taken now and somebody comes in and buys them for 85 million, the next time the town will be talking about acquiring it, it'll be a lot more, you know.
All right, before,
Well, you know, the other thing too is you've already talked about the future. We're saying 63. It's gonna be 75 by the time we invest the 12 million we need. Who knows what it would be? You know, that 12 million is with us picking the lowest bidder, best value. If somebody else is controlling it, I'm not really convinced that it will be 12 million. It could be a lot more.
A lot more, sure.
So even at 75 over 10 years, which is a ridiculous number, and we all know it, but compared to letting somebody else buy it for 80 or 90, and then add in 12 or 15 more, I mean, at the end of the day, do we want to spend the money? Oh, heck no. But do we have a better alternative? No. This is the best alternative that we can find, that we still retain some control and keep the cost, because a 30% increase is
Required
ridiculous.
control we've never had before. We don't
Jerry,
retain it,
you
we
want
get
one-
it for the first
You
time.
fought them tooth and nail, and they were looking, what'd they get, only
If
50%?
you're looking for 90, they got 50.
Right, and before that,
That was
30.
a victory, but
And
hard to
that's
make
my
people
point.
understand that, yeah.
You fought them tooth and nail, and you walked away saying, I got them down to 50.
Right.
Okay, I mean, I'm not taking
No, I know
anything
that,
away.
I know, that's
But
the
somehow,
system.
if you hadn't fought them tooth and nail,
You
they
might
would have
get
been at 70.
60 or 70, you never know, yeah. And the 2 years before that, they got 33. Those days hopefully will be over. Now there should be regular, consistent increases or no increases based upon actual expenditures and need. That
Yeah,
should
but
be
if you
happening.
listen to the data that the people presented, the average bill goes up 4% a year in 300
Right,
towns.
that's pretty
So,
standard.
you know, again, I don't want people thinking we're gonna have no increase like
Oh, no,
sewer.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Plan on 4%. If we don't have it that year, Jerry gets a cup of coffee, hooray.
There you go.
But if we do, you know, plan on knowing we're gonna come back with a 30% increase, because it's coming at us, that 30% is coming at us whether we buy the company or not. But with our spending the 30%, we get control. And we know what's being spent. Because up till now, I think, you know, it's as transparent as a bucket of mud.
Mr. Jakey?
Everyone has pretty much said what I've heard to this point. If Jerry hadn't indicated to us that the business is for sale,
It's not for
And-
sale, but everybody has an
we
expectation
know
that
that, we know it's gonna happen.
it could well happen.
Yeah, I'm quite sure it will, because some of the companies are out there looking. In my simple way of thinking, I don't particularly want to own another business in the town. However, the one responsibility I think that we have is to provide a service, provide a commodity, and do it at the best possible cost that we can do it. Do I think the expenses are gonna go down? No. I think we're gonna be lucky to keep balance. But what I'm more than concerned about is the possibility that someone does buy it for $90 million, someone does take out heavy loans, and it comes back to us. And we can't control that. So with that said, I wasn't terribly anxious to buy the water company. I'm still not terribly anxious to buy the water company. But I can see that we're in a position that we need to buy the water company. So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to move that we
Absolutely.
vote favorably.
No, well, we're gonna go through, there's actually 7 articles.
Can we have an article to vote on first?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we have 7 articles that we're gonna.
Sorry, Aldo.
Yeah.
I thought we had an.
No. We're just having
Yeah.
pre-discussion.
Yeah, this is the pre-discussion, so we're gonna go through all the articles right now. Just quickly, I want to, because I know that I was at the forums and I saw the attendance in that. I mean, maybe everyone was watching it at home. I know public coming up to me. I don't know that necessarily that everybody knows all the information, so, and I can guarantee you there aren't a lot of people watching this meeting, but I want to just spit out a couple more facts that I think that are important, that maybe if anyone's missed it anywhere else, that they can get it here, that people have the biggest questions on. First, the water users are going to be the one that pays for the acquisition of the water company, the operation of the water company, anything that happens. If you have a well in your yard, you will not be paying for any of this. The only thing you will be paying for are the legal costs that we've had that will come out of our operational budget.
Initial costs, yeah.
But on the whole, anything that happens from the water company, from our acquisition forward, will only be paid for by the users of water in Milford. So if you have a well, this does not affect you whatsoever. okay? And I think that's an important thing, because people have come up to me, they say, I have a well, why in the world would I be in favor of this? Well, you wouldn't be, until you realize that you're not gonna pay for it at all, okay? Another thing is that when people talk about infrastructure repairs, it's very evident that there are serious infrastructure repairs that need to be done within this town. And people come up to me and they say, well, we have 100-year-old pipes. Well, it's gonna cost a lot to replace that. Well, it's come up in many of the forums, and once again, I want to reiterate that if a pipe breaks, you still pay for it. You just pay for it 2 years later when they increase their rates.
With a profit
With a
margin.
profit, and it's going to be a lot more expensive for the water company to fix anything than for us to do it. So anything that happens in town, I know you may have a 100-year-old water pipe that's going to go. If it goes now under the control of the Milford Water Company, trust me, you are going to pay for it, and you're going to pay for it with a profit. So it's going to be significantly cheaper for us to run infrastructure repairs than if the Milford Water Company did it. Also, the acquisition of the water company will have no effect on our operational budget. I said it the other night, because the water company is on our books, it does not mean that there's one less police officer. It does not mean that there's one less textbook for a child. It doesn't mean that there's one less road being paved. It has absolutely no effect on us whatsoever. The Milford Water Company department would be basically in a bubble all by itself on the side. Anything that it does would be through its rate structure, and any expenses would come from the revenues that they created. It would not affect the entire town budget, okay? Also, when people talk about quality, right now, if we have an issue with our water, we have to call the Milford Water Company, and if they don't take our phone call, you have to call Boston. If we acquired the Milford Water Company, we would now have the ability to contact people in our town that have control over the water, whether it's our 3 water commissioners that would be appointed, or in the voting booth in the near future when they're actually elected. You will vote with you will speak with your vote. And those water commissioners will have to respect your opinion, because they have to have you in the voting booth. So that's a very important thing. And lastly, the other thing is that we are going to incur a lot of expense as water users. I know I'm a water user, so I'm going to incur it. And I will never get the benefit, or maybe I will. If it's 40 years, probably, definitely not. We will never gain the benefit of actually owning the water company, okay? This is more for our children and for our grandchildren. It's like your house. When we finally have this paid off, we will own it. It will be ours. There will be no more debt service. We probably will have investments along the way that we will need to bond, but on the purchase as a whole, it will be paid off. And I've never had a house paid off in my life, and I will never have that good feeling, I don't know, with all these refinancing. But when that's done, this town owns this. And for those 5 reasons, and there's a host of other ones, to me, this is absolutely the right move for the town of Milford. And I don't think we would have had all this information if it wasn't the good work of selectmen, these 2 gentlemen in front of us, Rick, and our consultants. So with that being said, Article 1, Mr. Moody.
Well,
I'm sorry.
One quick note. I'm getting emails now saying, are we going to have a finance committee report for this town meeting? And there is no plan to have the typical separate finance committee report.
Yeah, that's up to you folks.
We're gonna try to have a letter, I think, depending on our vote tonight. We're gonna try to get a letter together. I think Friday we need to have it.
Then worry about how we're
Yeah,
gonna
exactly.
report to the
Yeah.
town.
Let's vote and get going.
One clarification, what you said, Zach said it the other night about, because what you made a good point about the ratepayers are gonna pay for this. But it is gonna impact the stabilization fund initially. You made a good point, 500 to 750,000, what will be paid back.
Correct.
Seed money, absolutely, very
Seed
good
money,
point.
but
Yep.
that will impact, I mean,
Yep.
just be
Nope,
transparent.
there's absolutely no question, is that number?
Further, just to continue on that, they are currently a taxpayer that will get pulled out of the tax roll. However, we do have a pilot, but when we do that, it will be considered a local receipt, therefore leaving it available. So I think we have such a grasp on the levy that we know that, we can control that, we can monitor that, and I will, so.
Very good point, Jeff, yes, I was gonna meet some seed money that we're gonna talk about, so. But anyway, Article 1, Jerry.
Article 1, of course, is to acquire the water company, which is what we just talked about, and certainly recommend that you move favorable on it.
All right, so I have a motion by Aldo, second by Jerry, for a favorable recommendation on Article 1. And for the clarification for everyone at home, this is the big one. This is the actual voting to acquire the Milford Water Company.
$63 million.
For $63 million. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
And if that article is defeated, then the rest will be passed over, obviously. But if that article passes, then there's now another 6 articles behind that, all related. The first one, Article 2, it relates to additional money needed for the legal and engineering work to close this deal out. Selectmen are going to talk about that again Monday night, so they don't have a number for you tonight. So you may have to have a short meeting next week to get a final.
An estimate?
Not what, you got to talk to the selectmen. They've got to talk about it first, so, you know, so we'll see. It'll come out on Monday night.
Yep.
Monday night's
So
meeting.
we're going to, right now, we're not going to address this because the selectmen haven't addressed this.
Yeah, they have not, they just don't have a decision on it, how
And
much or.
if I can throw something together next week for a quick, I mean, it would honestly be a 5-minute meeting.
Should be.
Can we have the meeting before the town meeting?
You could.
Yeah,
you
we could probably do that.
We've done that.
So, well, the letter's going out on Friday, so the point is, the letter's going out without our recommendations on Articles 2 and 5 anyway.
But you might have information to put in there without and indicate.
Yep.
Recommendation be made
Do
that
we
night.
have an estimate? Not,
Yeah, not one I really want to talk about until the selectmen have a chance to talk
Thank you,
about
Jerry.
it. They need to.
they should have shown up here tonight.
Article 3.
Article 3, let me take a look at that. This one's very simple. We need to have a vote under this statute to establish a water distribution system and maintain and operate it. By doing that, then we come under that provision of the general laws, and then this whole operation will operate under that provision of the general laws. So, in a sense, you can view it as housekeeping, but it's important. We have to do that, and we'll now be governed by that set of laws, which has a lot of standards in there in terms of the way we have to operate.
Is this the enterprise fund now?
No, we'll get to that. This is not the enterprise fund. This is just to theoretically
This says we're
authorize
gonna
us.
operate the water company in accordance with rules and
We-
regulations.
Well, we have to, we'll be operating in accordance with Chapter 40, Section 39A of the
That's
statute.
state law.
That's all. It really is.
Favorable by Aldo, second by Phil. All those in favor? Unanimous on Article, a favorable recommendation on Article 4.
Three.
3, yeah. that
3,
was
I apologize. Article 4.
4 is the enterprise fund. Very simple. We talked about it. This will establish the enterprise fund.
Favorable, second. We know how to do that.
I think it was favored by Phil, second by Jeff. All those in favor? Unanimous. Article 5, we're going to pass over as, well,
Five
we're
would
going
be-
to pass
five
over
would be the
discussing.
seed money we talked about, which would, theoretically, Zach's recommendation would come from stabilization. And again, you just look at the language in here, there would be an agreement between the water commissioners and the board of selectmen for a payback of that money, just as we did, before you guys can remember, we set up the geriatric authority in the early 1980s. We gave them, that number then was $250,000 of seed money, so they had a smooth transition out of a town department into an authority, which is similar. And that money got paid back over time. A couple times the selectmen, at their request, held, okay, you can hold off for a year paying back, but it was ultimately all paid back.
I was 5, so I'm going to take your word on it,
You
Jerry.
probably were right.
For the selectmen to give us
They're gonna
to
work-
sign off
talk.
on an amount.
Yeah, exactly,
2
exactly.
and 5. Do I have a favorable recommendation? Oh, no, Article
No.
5, I'm sorry.
No.
We're passing on. Article 6.
6 is special legislation. This was what Zach referred to earlier, that would allow us to borrow for 40 years. It's worth going forward with. Getting it through the legislature in time to utilize it here may not even be possible, but there's no reason not to get an affirmative vote to see if it is possible. Because if it was, it might be something that we could find could be utilized to really make things smoother all the way through. So, yeah, nothing to lose.
Representative Murray has been poking around at the state level.
Yeah.
If we say yes to this, and timing is the only problem, we can still bond it for 30, then refund it when we get approval for 40, right?
No, because it wouldn't be callable till 10 years.
10 years.
Okay.
So it really would have to line up beautifully, and I don't know.
But having the legislation approve it is not going to keep you from getting the 30-year.
It will not.
So we
We
might as
may-
well go ahead and forward and put it on the books and keep it as an option.
Absolutely.
I'm taking that as a favorable recommendation.
Favorable.
With everything in between, by the way. You can do 35, 36, whatever. You know,
Okay.
doesn't have to be 40 or 30.
We can look at the options and see how it plays out in the.
Favorable recommendation by Jerry, second by Phil. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, guys, I really want to thank everybody. I
Article
mean,
7.
There
Oh,
was one more.
oh, I gotta flip the page.
Longest one.
Sorry. Oh, yeah. Article 7.
And this one has to do with dissolving the Milford Water Company.
Would you read that whole thing for
You want me to read it? Yes, I'll read it very slowly, yes. But
This is synopsis.
I'm going to give you a synopsis. This has to do with the dissolution of the Milford Water Company. It's a corporate entity, but it's an unusual corporate entity, and it was chartered by the legislature. And then there have been a number of them over the years, a lot of water companies and other kinds of entities. There are things we're going to go through here, through stock transfers and through a merger, that in most private sector transactions would be sufficient to eliminate the entity for all time, but it's a little more questionable in terms of one of these chartered entities. And over the years, doing a little research back, typically the legislature at some point has passed a bill authorizing the dissolution. So if this is passed, this would allow the town the Board of Selectmen to dissolve the water company. Once we've brought it in and wrapped everything up, then we'll be able to dissolve it, and that's the end of the Milford Water Company.
Will that have to be a process that we go through, or just?
It's going to happen pretty quickly, because again, we're doing this as a stock transfer, so we're acquiring the stock, and we're acquiring all the assets and everything else and all the rights. Once we've acquired all that, in theory, the Milford Water Company as an entity may still be floating out there, and it's best just to clean it up, as has been done many times over the last century in these things, as I found out. So it's just worth doing it that way, you know. That's it.
Favorable.
Second.
Favorable by Jerry, second by Aldo. All those in favor? Great. Excellent. And I'm not gonna thank you a fifth time, so.
There you go. We're all done. We're not, you know,
Rick this time.
Don't
There you
do any more thank yous until
Yeah.
after the time.
after the
Exactly.
town meeting,
There
yes.
you go.
yes.
We see any pitfalls going to town meeting? What do we need to do?
You know, I can give you my view. I think people have been receptive, or, you know, I think people are interested in this. I think a lot of people would actually like to get it done. There are people who are adamantly opposed to it. So then that's gonna be your typical town meeting. You can have some of both of that, you know? And it needs a 2/3 vote, so that's, you know?
Is there anything we can do, or, is there anything we can do or should do to,
Let's go.
I forgot all about that.
other than talk it up?
I mean, at this stage, other than talk to people that you know, and town meeting members, you know, and get their views and give them your views, I'm not sure what else can be done.
And we'll be submitting our votes or our favorable recommendations and some comments, hopefully to go out on Friday with the mailer to town meeting members, to let them know how we voted tonight and our feeling on it.
I'm just-
No, I couldn't, yeah, absolutely.
I feel really good about it, but there's always some catch-22 out there, somebody stands up and,
All you can do is what you're doing, and that's it, and the rest takes its own course.
Town clerk
Sit here and think about it,
ask
but
us
it's
if
gotta
we want,
happen or it's not.
if we want anything to
Going
go
out
out in the normal mailer. And again, Jerry, if you wanna volunteer, you can write it, but right now, there's no plans to write
I
our
was
normal,
gonna
and it's gotta be
suggest-
done by tomorrow.
I know,
I'm gonna suggest if not, I think it'd be a good opportunity for a joint
Yeah.
presentation at town meeting.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm hoping that we can do that, but I am gonna get something, I spoke to the town administrator before this meeting about the Friday deadline, and I'll write up something for this.
That's tomorrow, or next Friday?
No, 2 days Friday.
This week.
I'll get something written up.
Okay.
We'll get it out.
And then we're not gonna see a draft of it, but never mind. Forget it.
I can send a draft out to it. I don't wanna make it a huge, because I only have 2 days, so I don't wanna.
Well, just send the draft on it, as long as there's no, I don't wanna look at it to pick at it. I
Yeah.
wanna look at it to make sure there's no misunderstanding or glaring errors.
Well,
And I would only,
Absolutely. No, I'll get that out to you. Yep. All right, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
motion to adjourn?
Well, actually, yeah, we are gonna adjourn, because to be honest with you, I did not upload the subcommittee assignment, spreadsheet onto the drive, which is a complete mistake by me, so, we're not gonna be talking about that tonight. But,
Gentlemen, please.
guys, just for 1 second, we're done. Guys, all right. So when I send out the subcommittee assignment, which I was hoping to talk about tonight, you are gonna see there's some significant shakeup in the subcommittees. We had talked about last year that we wanna try to get a more eclectic knowledge. I know everyone's happy in their committees, but let's get everyone's knowledge moving around a little bit. If anyone hates what they have, they obviously, you know me, I'm easy, I'll move. But I really want to try to get us to move around. Some of us get kind of entrenched in their certain departments. But I think it's good for us to kind of expand and see stuff. There are some departments that are there that weren't even there, like IT and that type of stuff, so we can move around and see some new people.
You don't have that tonight, Chris?
It was supposed to be uploaded, but I made a mistake,
Why
so.
don't you just tell us?
You didn't change what we got, did you? You didn't change what you sent us.
I haven't sent
You
anything.
haven't sent anything.
How did I get it?
You're special.
Paul may have sent last year's, but I haven't upgraded it. Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna
Just read it off to us.
So I'm gonna be sending, I don't have it, that's the
Oh.
point.
Well, then don't read it.
Because I tried to save a tree and just put it on the drive and I didn't have it. So with that being said, that's all the agenda items that we have for tonight. Our next meeting will obviously be talking about the special town meeting, the regular special town meeting for October. So we'll be tackling a lot of the capital expenditures, and the warrant has not even closed yet on that, is it? Tomorrow closes. So we'll have an idea what's on the October meeting. I don't think there are any big surprises. Thankfully, with the way that we deal with capital now, there are no surprises. So.
Have we made a motion to adjourn?
I think there was right there.
Okay.
Second by Jerry. All those in favor?
Yo, perfect.
Thanks and have a great night.
Thank you, Chris.